This is Bob. Bob is a US taxpayer and he's getting screwed. Let me explain why. Starting in 2023, US taxpayers can take advantage of a $7,500 federal tax credit when purchasing an electric or hybrid vehicle in the United States. The purpose of this bill is to incentivize domestic manufacturing of batteries and electric vehicles using American workers, which will aid in the transition of the vehicle fleet to the next generation technology. The bill states that this is good for the economy and national security since the US would be less reliant on other countries for its oil and gas to power the current fleet. Although this incentive sounds reasonable and promising at first glance, the way it's currently being executed is anything but, and American taxpayers are funding the exact opposite of what this bill intended to do. Let me show you what I mean with a very specific example outlining the incentives for some so-called electric vehicles. This is a Jeep Wrangler 4xe. As categorized by the EPA, NHTSA, and the IRS, this is a 5-seat SUV. The 4xe is a hybrid vehicle, which means it has a gas-powered drivetrain as well as an electric drivetrain. This electric drivetrain is powered by a battery that provides 21 miles of pure electric range. And after this is exhausted, the car will use its traditional gas engine for another 250 to 300 miles, just like any other Jeep Wrangler. These two drivetrains combined give the car 20 miles per gallon equivalent, which is slightly better than a gas-only Wrangler, but not by much. Under the current interpretation of the bill, this car is eligible for the $7,500 EV tax credit due to complying with the three following rule sets. Number 1, it has a battery of at least 7 kilowatt hours, which is used to power an electric drivetrain. Number 2, its MSRP is under $80,000, which is the limit for SUVs, trucks, or vans to be eligible to receive the credit. And lastly, number 3, the car's final assembly, in other words, the steps required to put the car together, are in North America. Not specifically the US, but any of the 3 countries in North America, which are Canada, the United States, and Mexico. For this example, the Jeep Wrangler has a battery of at least 7 kilowatt hours, which gives it that 21 miles of EV range. It is built in Toledo, Ohio, which last I checked is in North America, and it has an MSRP of $54,735, which is below the $80,000 threshold limit for SUVs. And so based on the definition of the bill, a car that gets 20 miles per gallon equivalent and has 21 miles of electric range, which is 5% of its total capable range, is eligible for a $7,500 electric vehicle tax credit. In 2022, this 95% gas car, 5% electric vehicle was not eligible for a $7,500 tax incentive. In 2023, it is. Let me show you a slightly different example. This is an Audi Q5 e-Quattro. As categorized by the EPA, NHTSA, and the IRS, this is a 5-seat SUV. In the E configuration, the Q5 is a hybrid vehicle, which means it has the same dual drivetrain as the Wrangler 4xe. The electric powertrain gets 23 miles of pure electric range, and the rest, just like the Wrangler, is driven by a gas powertrain for another 250 to 300 miles. It has a starting MSRP of $57,400 and gets 61 miles per gallon equivalent, which for a gas car is objectively very good. However, this car's final assembly is in San Jose, Chiapas, Mexico, which is not in the United States but is in North America. This means that this German brand built in Mexico gets the $7,500 federal EV tax credit that's funded by US taxpayers, which seems counter to the bill's intended purpose. I understand if thus far you feel like your tax dollars are not being put to good use, and we could say this is some poor oversight and government not being a perfectly efficient organization. I would be willing to grant you this if the following example didn't exist. This is a Tesla Model Y. This car is built in Fremont, California and Austin, Texas. It has 2 different configurations, a 5-seat and a 7-seat. The 7-seat configuration is labeled as an SUV by the EPA, NHTSA, and the IRS. However, and this is very important, the 5-seat configuration is labeled as an SUV by the EPA and NHTSA, but not the IRS. This is a very important distinction because it will bring to light just how broken the current incentive structure is. Under the 5-seat configuration, the Model Y starts at $65,990, and unlike the other 2 examples we listed, which were hybrids, this car is 100% electric, meaning that it only has one drivetrain, an electric one. No gas tank, no engine, no radiator, catalytic converter, transmission, nothing. Just a big battery and electric drivetrains. This battery has roughly 70 kilowatt hours of capacity, which is roughly 10 times more than either the Audi or the Jeep. This battery gives the car 330 miles of pure electric range, which is equivalent to the total range of either the Audi or the Jeep, with both their electric and gas drivetrains combined. But as you can see, it is more than 10 times the electric range of either vehicle. And because it's electric and doesn't use any gas, this car gets 117 miles per gallon equivalent, versus the 20 and 61 of the Jeep or the Audi. This is because electric drivetrains are much more efficient than gas engines. So you can start to see why the bill was written in the first place. It is meant to push forward cars that are much more efficient yet travel the same distance and are not reliant on an energy source, in this case gasoline, that the US currently has to import from other countries. With enough investments, the US can be 100% energy independent with a mix of domestic oil, natural gas, solar, hydro, wind, etc. And because the Tesla in this example is electric, it can take advantage of any of these fuel sources, making it a win for American workers, American taxpayers, and American national security. However, because the IRS doesn't consider this car an SUV and has decided for whatever reason to label the car as other, the Tesla Model Y, an American-built pure electric vehicle with 330 miles of range, 117 miles per gallon equivalent, 5-seat SUV, is not eligible to receive a $7,500 EV tax credit. And this is because the IRS has two distinctions for cars that qualify that are based on MSRP: $80,000 for SUVs, trucks, and vans, and $55,000 for all other. And because of the IRS's decision to label the 5-seat configuration not an SUV, it falls in the $55,000 threshold category, which makes the 5-seat Model Y not eligible to receive the credit. A car with the same form factor as the two hybrids, 10 times the electric range, 2 to 6 times more efficient, American-built electric vehicle is not eligible while the other gas cars are. Additionally, the 5-seat configuration of the Model Y is said to be the best-selling EV in America by far in 2023 and has a chance to be the best-selling car in America period in 2023. Why isn't the IRS allowing customers to receive a $7,500 tax credit on the car that is the best representation of what this bill is supposed to do? And to be clear, Tesla is not the only brand that is impacted by this. The top two trims of the Ford Mach-E fall under the same exact conundrum, even though it's built in Mexico, but don't tell anybody that. So now this is the world that we live in. A Mexican-built hybrid gasoline car with 23 miles of electric range in the Audi and a 20 miles per gallon equivalent, 21 miles of electric range Jeep Wrangler get the $7,500 tax credit, but the American-built, pure electric, best-selling SUV doesn't. What the fuck? However, believe it or not, I have some good news. We are in a very peculiar spot where we could actually make change, and this is how we can do it. First, go ahead and give this video a like so YouTube knows to show this to as many people as humanly possible. Second, I've started a petition that currently has over 46,000 signatures that you are more than welcome to sign in order to voice your displeasure with the way this bill is being executed. I have a link for that in the description and in the comments. Third, the IRS has an open window through February 28th of this year where you can send them an email and voice your displeasure directly to them. Please be sure to include a link to the petition as well so they can see just how many people are not happy because of this bill. I've put instructions for this in the description and in the comments, but it's as simple as writing an email to the following address: pra.comments@irs.gov, and putting this very specific text in the subject line. This is very, very important. OMB space control space NO dot space 1545-2137. I'll also include a link to my website in the description and in the comments where you can either copy or borrow verbiage that you can use for this email. We've now reached a special moment in time where we, the American taxpayer, can actually make change. And I truly believe that if enough of us come together, government will have to act. Best case scenario, our tax dollars, at least some of them, will be put to use correctly. And in the worst case, we'll learn more about our government officials so that we can vote accordingly in the next upcoming election. Please be sure to spread this video as far and as wide as you can so that we can maximize the chances of making positive change. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this video was helpful and informational, and we'll see you in the next one. Let's make our tax dollars count.